1950s by Arthur Maxwell, and it's called Saved from the Dogs. Barbara was only 5 years old at the time, but she was old enough to do all sorts of little jobs for her mother. She could dry the dishes and wash them too. And when there was nothing very special to be done, she could sweep and she could dust and she could look after her baby brother as well. Well, as long as he was being good. But her most favorite thing to do for Mother was to run errands. Of course, Mother didn't let her go very far, just down the street to the nearby grocer and across the road to the neighbors. Mother had no worries about traffic because there wasn't very much traffic where they lived. All the neighbors knew Barbara, and oftentimes they looked out their window and they could see her walking briskly along in her pretty blue and white dress, and they would say to themselves, "There's Barbara again. She must be going on another errand for her mother. She's such a good little girl." And although she did not know it, Barbara was doing everyone good by simply helping her mother and doing what she was told. Because nothing had ever happened to Barbara on any of her journeys, she had no fear. She didn't think anything would ever go wrong. But one day, something did happen. It was evening, and Mother wondered whether or not she should let Barbara go out late. But as she needed some cheese and cookies and other things for supper, she decided, well, we really need to have cookies in the house, you never know. And then it would be okay for her to go. And so she said, "Barbara, go on down to the grocer, get the cheese, get the cookies as fast as you can, and come straight back home." She had not gone very far, and she went into the store, and she got things very quickly, and she left, as Mother had told her to. But not long after she left the store, she noticed two dogs were following her. Perhaps they had smelled the cookies or the cheese or something. Anyhow, they kept coming closer and closer and were soon sniffing the bag Barbara was carrying. "Go away, doggies," she said, holding the bag high above her head. But the dogs would not go away. Instead, they began jumping at the bag. Go away, bad doggies," she cried. But they kept jumping. Barbara became a little frustrated and started to run, but the dogs ran too, and she could not get rid of them. They were barking now, and that made her still more frightened. Seeing a shortcut across a vacant lot, Barbara darted toward it. But alas, 2 or 3 more dogs were playing there, and they came to join in the fun. By that time, Barbara had reached the center of the vacant lot. She was surrounded by 7 or 8 dogs. All were barking loudly and jumping at her, trying to reach the sweet-smelling things in the bag. Now remember, Barbara was only 5 years old, just a dear, pretty little girl, barely out of babyhood. But she had courage, and she had faith. And what do you suppose she did? Well, with all those yapping, yelping dogs around, her, she shut her eyes tight and prayed that Jesus would save her and make the dogs go away. Suddenly, all the yapping and yelping ceased, and Barbara opened her eyes. The dogs were all slinking away with their tails between their legs as if someone had commanded them to go. This is a true story, by the way. By this time, Mother was getting anxious about Barbara and was out at the front gate, and she was asking the neighbors if anyone had seen her. Suddenly, Barbara came around the corner, and Mother saw the beautiful look on her face. She knew that something unusual had happened, and it had. Maybe it was just a little thing, but to Barbara, it was something very, very wonderful, something she'll never forget as long as she lives. Jesus answered her prayer, didn't he? That would have been terrifying to me. You can go back to your seats, children. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you, Lee. That was a good story.